there are big developments in the Adani Hindenburg case that is being heard in the Supreme Court. Dr. Jaijit Bhattacharya also on the show with me. Dr. Bhattacharya, now with the conclusion, now with the hearing coming to an end, what is the next step that the Adani group of companies, can SEBI take the next step in questioning the Hindenburg report or this NGO that came up with the report? What is going to be the next course of action for Adani Group? Is SEBI then going to be involved in this? Does it have the jurisdiction to get involved in this?
And that's a good question. Does it really have the jurisdiction? Because some of these companies are not listed. In fact, the interesting point is that some of these were startups, such as Adani Total Gas. And therefore, its PE ratio was extremely high, just like any startup, because the revenue is near to zero. The valuation comes from what is the potential and the market size, and that's how the valuation comes in. So these were kind of taken out of context and touted that there is a disproportionate PE ratio, whereas the stable businesses such as ports and so on had regular market valuation, regular PE ratios, and therefore the SEBI jurisdiction is restricted to those companies which are listed in the stock exchange. If they are not listed, if they are being traded privately, then that's not a jurisdiction that SEBI comes into. It's only when there is public involved in a public market, stock market, that SEBI steps in. When shares are traded privately, the trading partners are supposed and expected to have sufficient information about the stocks, about the business, and will be taking steps as per their own knowledge about the matter. But when it's a public that's involved, they can always be taken for a ride, which is where we have institutions such as SEBI, RBI, and so on and so forth to take care of the public interest. The allegation largely is that Adani had manipulated its stock prices to an extent that the public were quote unquote fooled by it, and therefore the final allegation being that Adani fooled people to get money in and to invest into their stocks. I think we might even come out with an outcome that SEBI says that there is nothing to say that that's true, or it may find a whole bunch of issues with Adani with the listed companies. And that's where SEBI will take it forward, obviously,
okay,
but also still lie in the courts of the Indian judicial system.
All right, Dr. Jaijit, I'm just going to put out some figures from how the stocks were moving before these observations by the Supreme Court were made, and after these statements and these observations and arguments were put forth by SEBI and, of course, the counsel who was fighting for the petitioners. Now here, Adani Ports, which was down at 0.93%, Adani Enterprises up at 0.8%, Adani Green up 1%, Adani Wilmar at 0.29% up, Adani Power 1.91% up, there's Adani Energy Solutions 1.07 up. So besides Adani Ports at 0.93% down and Ambuja Cements, which was 0.64% down, rest all of the enterprises that belong to Adani group of companies were moving up. And after the resumption of the courts and after these statements were made, after the observations were made, we continue to see that Adani Port was down by 0.78% and Ambuja Cements at 0.60%, which also reflects the sentiment of the markets, the sentiment of the people. It has been a certain period of time since the Hindenburg hit job happened. We obviously saw there was a drop, massive drop in stocks of Adani group of companies. But it seems like there has been reinstatement of trust and credibility for Adani's.
True. In fact, when the Hindenburg report came up, the Adani group ended up losing about 8 trillion rupees. And since then, they have recovered 5 trillion rupees. So without the Supreme Court judgment. I believe moving forward, there will be a further recovery in the Adani stocks. Cement obviously is a cyclic industry and is going through a downturn across entire Southeast Asia. So Adani will be no exception to that in terms of their cement company. But as you mentioned, rest of the companies are all seeing an uptick and an upswing in the prices. And that's going to happen even further because it will end up recovering all that it lost before the Hindenburg report came in. However, I would like to observe that Adani also lost 1 year of growth because it got constrained in terms of capital inflow, it got constrained in terms of being able to move ahead with its investments, which also that we lost 1 year of employment opportunities, 1 year of additional GDP growth, and so on and so forth. Those are things that nobody will compensate us for.
Right.
We recollect the 1996 Asian financial crisis. The then Prime Minister of Malaysia, Mahathir Mohamad, came out very pointedly accusing George Soros of being the mastermind of that entire collapse. And I think somebody of the stature of Mahathir Mohamad, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, saying so, we should hear that with good cognizance. And hence all the co-panelists, what they were saying about the Indian government taking this as a hit on India or warfare by other means, should therefore pick up all mechanisms possible to be able to ensure that nobody dares do it again against India or Indian companies in future.